This podcast series is brought to you by World of Coffee Dubai and DXB Live. Expand your specialty coffee brand into the fastest growing specialty coffee market in the world by becoming an exhibitor at the next World of Coffee Dubai in 2024. I will be there, so head to worldofcoffeedubai.com and join the mailing list to get notified when booth registrations become available. Check the show notes for further details. Welcome to World of Coffee Dubai, everybody. I am Lee Safar, and I'm really proud to bring you this first conversation of World of Coffee Dubai 2023. We are the official podcast partners for the event, and this is the first expo in the world in coffee where there has been an official podcast partner. So I am very honored that we are that partner. And we have had an incredible time in Dubai. Thanks, first of all, before we get started, to World of Coffee Dubai, to DXB Live, and for SCA UAE for paying for everything here for me and my assistant Noah to come, and for the booth and for everything. We're honored that you chose us to do this, and we're very grateful for your confidence in us, and we have had an incredible time in Dubai so far. Now, our first guest for the series that we are doing here at World of Coffee Dubai is with the fabulous Chahan Yeretzian. And we are discussing across this time, every guest that we have on the podcast is going to have the same theme that we're going to be exploring. And that theme is the future of specialty coffee in the Middle East. And so today I'm going to have a conversation with Chahan about that from the perspective of science. So Chahan, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Lee, and thank you very much for inviting me to this event. And I look forward to this first podcast.
Thank you so much for being my first guest. The conversation that we had on the podcast in 2022 was very well received by our community. It stirred up conversation. People agreed with what we said. People disagreed with what we said. And this here in the Middle East is a very different market than what you and I are used to from where we are. Where do you think what do you think the future of specialty coffee is in the Middle East from the perspective of science?
Yes, so really this is the question that in general we ask ourselves about the role of the future. What is the future of specialty coffee? Mm-hmm. And here really particularly also from the perspective of the Middle East. So I think specialty coffee is definitely the Formula One of coffee. It is where things are thought ahead of time, things are prepared, things are tested, and then some things are discarded, others are kept. So I think it's really the think tank, it's the Formula One of the coffee business in general. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things that are going through the specialty coffee community are then also becoming mainstream. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a place where people really test ideas, mm-hmm. and try to push forward the future of coffee. So that's in general, I would say, what the specialty coffee movement is. Of course, always with a strong focus on the quality in the cup. Mm-hmm. It's really about quality and the enjoyment, the experience. But of course, it's evolving. It's evolving into many other new eras, like as I represent here, into the science. So it's into understanding what we're doing, and then also into communicating and teaching. All these aspects are now very deeply ingrained into the mission, mm-hmm. and into the life of specialty coffee. So I think that's in general the specialty coffee. Now for the Middle East, you can think perhaps it's a little bit different, because Middle East has a very different tradition in coffee. It's in fact the consumption side, the yeah. experience side is really something that has been discovered or really enjoyed and celebrated first in the Middle East regions. Myself, I'm born in Syria, in Aleppo, in Halab, so I know a little bit about this tradition. So, and I think that when you think about really what's the mission of the specialty coffee, the Middle East have really lived this experience of coffee enjoyment, mm-hmm. also with the social element, very early on, way before we were talking about specialty coffee.
Yeah.
Now the specialty coffee movement itself as a movement has then been created not in the Middle East. It's something that has been created in US and then later in Europe and then propagated to the world. And I think now for the Middle East, it's very important that they discover and they join, and they have of course fully joined, but with also the knowledge and the confidence that they have actually started in a way the whole movement of coffee experience, the coffee shop, the coffee, the place, where people enjoy it. And so I think there is the Middle East is joining the specialty coffee movement. At the same time, I think the Middle East also has to shape it with its own tradition and bring back, the historical fact that experience of coffee really started in the Middle East.
Have you been to many specialty coffee shops while you've been here?
No.
No.
Not.
You know what I found very fascinating in that time, that where they are starting is after 30 years of what we've developed. So we've been doing this in places like Australia and America and other places. We're very developed in what we're doing, but we started at commercial coffee. Where they're starting here is where we're finishing, or not finishing, but where we've gotten to after 30 years, which makes me so excited for what they're going to build on from where their starting point is.
Yeah. In a way, perhaps, you can say that what the specialty coffee movement has been such a big thing for Europe and America is something that is already in their lives, not in the same wording or in the same way, but the enjoyment of the coffee shop and the social element of coffee is so ingrained in their life that perhaps it takes a while to understand that it is something different, something new. But today, of course, what I know, of course, about the specialty coffee movement here in the Middle East is that through our education program that we have, our postgrad degrees, we have a lot of people, from here, from Dubai region, from Saudi Arabia, from Jordania, and so Kuwait. We have more than 20 students who graduated or are just graduating in our programs, and they have all really demonstrated an incredible high level of dedication and expertise. So the knowledge and energy in developing specialty coffee in this region is just incredibly high. We know that, but at the same time, this is of course something new. And so. But it's astonishing how fast it develops. Well,
and the other thing is, when we started I started 20 years ago in coffee, there wasn't anything called coffee science.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything, like we weren't weighing anything. We weren't timing anything. We weren't doing anything like that. We were using our senses, our sight, our smell, sound, to decide when an espresso shot was done.
Yeah.
We would look at it, and when it blonded, that was when we decided that it was done. Whereas now, with the way that where their starting point comes from the benefits of everything that we have developed as not scientists, plus what you guys are doing at the university in Switzerland and contributing so much actual data and science. It's not about opinions anymore. It's not about roasters that are out there saying, we've decided this is the way everything should be done just because.
Yes. Exactly. I think what's when you look back at the way it developed, in the US and Europe, it has been like a cult. It has been like a community. It has been like friendships, and the people who join now, they come with a much more professional attitude into the game, with the goal to learn. And I think really the role of science today, of course, it's to do research. But at the same time,
have some coffee, sir.
Thank you. It is. I feel like the priority even is education, is to pass on the existing knowledge. There's a lot known, and I think as the first priority for us in the academic world is first of all to educate, and at the same time to bring people on an equal level, so that the language and the knowledge is shared in the elite of the educator in the coffee world is calibrated. So I think the effort for us as scientists is to calibrate the knowledge among those who are the educated, because we are educating just the elite,
Right.
So we educate
We want to
per year.
disseminate that.
Exactly. So educate the teachers. We educate perhaps 100 people a year, or 120. And but the benefit of this is that the people who leave and graduate from our programs are calibrated on a knowledge that is validated, and that is right now really what's missing. We have all these ASTs and all these highly educated people, but there is still a variety of knowledge that people are not sure about what is correct, and what is the knowledge that is really solid, validated. And so that's one thing. And then of course science too. That's the main benefit for specialty coffee.
What about discovery? You talked about how it's disseminating the information, teaching people who in the elite in the industry so that they can disseminate the information. But what about discovery of new science and discovery of new facts? Where do you see the Middle East playing a role in that?
Well, the Middle East, of course, is there is a part of the community here very curious and very open. They don't have all the baggage of the history of the specialty coffee, where all the kind of thought schools, they are kind of here to learn and to absorb and to go forward. So they are much more flexible. That's what I would say. So much more flexible to learn and to adapt to what's real, what's good, and not, there is no like a group of people who promote specific aspects or others. They are really here to absorb, to learn, and then to become themselves the vector of the future. So I think what's happening right now really is education. It's very strong, very open, and very proactive. The young people here, or also at any level, are really strongly educating themselves. Now the discovery part, it's something that has to be driven by an industry. It's not only by the specialty coffee community. You need an industry behind that is willing to invest, is willing to develop products, because discovery mainly benefits to new products, to a business, and so you need then really close collaboration between industry and specialty coffee, so that we go into new discoveries, which can be then marketed as new product, which are profitable. So I think the role for the Middle East is to develop an industry on coffee in general, like coffee machines, on all kind of technologies.
So tech as well as brewing and cafe models and business models and things like that, but we want to develop some tech here.
Exactly, outside the pure coffee experience world and the knowledge and the schools. They have many academies here today. It's really to go into technology, into manufacturing. I know that there are factories here, but I think it should be developed further into develop now new coffee machines coming from the Middle East.
Really?
Yeah, why not? That would be something to do. And also, I think perhaps roastery that exists. Roastery, I think there are, but in general, roastery are also part of the specialty coffee community, not so much on discovery, but more on the education side.
Right.
Interested. So they want to educate the people, and then they still roast traditional. There's no real innovation happening in a specialty coffee roastery, in my opinion. It just
is there a lot of science going into it though?
They try, and but it requires quite a lot of education. And right now, I think when we listen at what's happening in the trendsetter or in the big people, the what is said is very confusing and contradictory. So the claimed top people are contradicting to each other on what's the best profile and why.
Yeah.
So I think there's confusion in the roasting education era, in my opinion, and so there should
science
be,
can help fix that, right?
Probably we can. Yeah, exactly, we can, and it's a tricky thing because it's a very complex science. It's a very complex. So the part that science will be able to contribute will be small, but what will be able to contribute will be relevant to everybody. People expect always like big new knowledge, how to profile to get a specific flavor.
Tell us the exact profile.
Yeah.
Tell us what science says is the right way to do it.
Yeah, and so we will learn. We learn, of course. We know quite a bit, but it's very, I would say, very general ideas about roasting. About misconceptions. But science will contribute to the roasting, definitely.
One thing that I have definitely seen in the Middle East with all the consulting work that I've done here and all the clients that I've spoken to, as well as people who are not my clients, there is an excitement here to do things very well in specialty coffee. There is, you spoke about this newness that they bring to it and this openness. I have found here that you're right, they don't have the baggage that we have. They don't want to prove themselves as the best amongst each other. They just want to learn and learn and learn and learn. Yeah. And I see the long-term benefits of that, provided we can find the investment that comes with that. And so and where I'm going with this is the person who wins from this is the consumer. And I think if we bring the consumer into this story, we have to find a way to bring the investor, the business owner, and the consumer together. Around the science, so that everyone wins.
And what I see also as an opportunity for the Middle East is it is an era where women can do a lot. We could eventually bring much more women into the world of coffee, because it's not a business that is kind of hold and fixed by men. It is open to women. And so I think it's important that women in the Middle East take this opportunity also, to enter it, and because they are actually welcome in the coffee community very much. And so what people should do, of course, here in the Middle East also to elevate the value of people in the specialty community. So it's not that you can actually be a relevant person, to the community if you do a good coffee. So eventually that could be also a very big opportunity. And the advantage of that is, particularly in the specialty coffee, you need patience, you need time, you need dedication to the details, and so this is in the Orient or in the Middle East, people are not always under rush. They are not rushing. They have this mentality.
You mentioned that earlier to me today, that you found that there's a different vibe.
Yeah, people are not always under stress. They have this culture of taking time to do things. Yeah. And so sometimes this can be not very productive to the new life where you have to do 10,000 things in 5 minutes. But at the same time, this could become the new thing, to do things well, slow, but let it mature, particularly in specialty coffee. That's the way for the future. Just rushing through things will not work anymore. You could do that in the early time. So you need a little bit this mentality of Middle Eastern who take time, and then inshallah, then wait a little bit and then do.
This is our favorite word.
And then it matures, Yeah. The same thing is also what's happening in Asia with Japan or Korea. They are very strong because these are people who can really involve themselves with a huge dedication to the details, Ikebana and all these technologies. So all these things that are actually very positive for their culture. I think the Middle East can bring their identity into really mastering the coffee, but they have to add to that the business, and start to create some profitable and big business that will then also be exported. And they have everything. They have the historical baggage. They have also, people know that coffee shops or the places for coffee started really here,
it's a tradition here, right?
And Aleppo, Halab is also a very well-known place for the coffee house. Yeah. And and the tea, coffee and tea, of course. Yeah. So yeah, I think the Middle East has definitely huge opportunity, and they are grabbing it already. But it has to be followed up. It has to be amplified and taken it with their own mentality. You know, it's not like there's no need to copy others. You know, but to learn from others and create something that is their personal take on the. And so I think science is going to be important. Education right now, focus on the education. I realize that. Definitely would be very good to have some kind of a excellence center on coffee, some kind of a university who develops expertise field, some kind of an institute on coffee. That would be very well, a very great achievement, you know, I think. And I know there are a lot of people who could teach, you know, in such a school. So I think that would be important to support the industry. You know, if you want an industry that flourishes, you need also support from research, which should be done at the academic level, in my opinion, you know, at the university somewhere in the Middle East. And so it needs everything. It needs the coffee community, it needs the academics, and it needs the industry, and they have to be partners. And not like we have seen sometimes also in the specialty coffee movement in Europe, where the specialty coffee movement considers themselves like a antidote to the industry, you know, the mainstream industry, and they don't collaborate instead of realizing that they're actually part of a bigger unity. So,
so I have a question for you to finish off our conversation. Do you think that the Middle Eastern specialty coffee industry has the potential to shape and influence the wider global specialty coffee industry?
Yes. Oh, of course. It has to do that, first of all, by developing themselves in the Middle East, you know. As I said, beyond all the education, the fantastic coffee shop and coffee academy, they have to develop an industry and academics. And at some point, they have also to integrate much more the global community in the US or in Japan. So the interaction must also increase. Right now there is I mean, we see it here. This event is fantastic.
It's amazing.
And so Dubai is doing really pioneer work for that, but it's a pioneer work, you know. It's not the standard yet for the Middle East. And we must say what Dubai is doing here is really central. Is very central to development of the Middle East in the coffee business. And I know that the specialty coffee community worldwide is very curious to come and see, to experience, and to see what Dubai is offering. So, so they will become a leader in their way, you know. I don't know what the future of specialty is in general, but it will develop in a way where I think the Middle East will have a big voice.
Chahan, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and for joining us again. And have a great show.
Thank you very much, and you too.
Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Mapper Forward on Patreon, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.